The use of cell phones in schools by students has become a fiercely debatable topic that concerns all segments of society, including students, parents, teachers, scholars, and officials. People who mostly advocate for using mobile phones consider that these devices are beneficial in providing safety and seamless connection of pupils with parents and are useful for education overall. Nevertheless, I hold to the firm conviction that the use of cell phones should be banned or maximum restricted in schools since, in most cases, they disrupt the learning process and notably impair students' performance. Thus, in this essay, I will present valid arguments supported by statistics, credible opinions, and facts, which prove the harm of using gadgets in educational premises. The first argument is that mobile phones disrupt the learning process by causing interruptions and distractions of students' attention from classroom activities. It is evident that any educational material requires intense mental concentration from individuals to be adequately comprehended and memorized. This aspect is fundamental in further students' performance and progress since one missing or misunderstood item makes it impossible to master the whole topic or even subject successfully. Moreover, because of this, students become increasingly uninterested, bored, and sometimes contemptuous towards a particular subject. Thus, the primary task and responsibility of every school or educational establishment are to create a conducive environment that promotes the learning process and helps students attain excellent outcomes. In this context, the students who have gadgets during school classes are usually inclined to use them for communication in social networks and viewing pictures and videos on the internet, which produces unwanted distractions. Additionally, a constant risk exists that pupils can watch embarrassing videos or content of pornographic nature via smartphones, which corrupts the students' morals and even makes them incapable of perceiving useful, educational information. As Danielle Einstein, a clinical psychologist from the University of Sydney, asserts, the overall situation is complicated because these devices provoke dopamine release leading to strong psychological addiction. Furthermore, Henderson, a journalist for The Independent, describes a phenomenon called phantom vibrations that occur as a result of learned bodily behavior. Namely, even the slightest vibration can make an individual feel like the phone vibrates, although, in fact, vibrations were absent. Numerous phone calls from outsiders, that is, parents, relatives, and friends, also cause interruptions in learning the material taught by the teacher. Besides, many scholars have confirmed via experiments that the presence of mobile phones in school disrupts the learning process. For example, two researchers from Western Carolina University, Lawson and Henderson, conducted the study involving 120 first-year students, which demonstrated that students who were texting during lectures obtained considerably less score regarding comprehension and performance. This study only confirmed the results of the previous similar research indicating that texting can reduce comprehension of class material at a rate of 10–20%. It is worth noting that these results were related to comparatively simple material. The second argument that can be advanced against the gadget's use is that they can adversely affect the individual's cognitive capabilities that are vital for students' performance and studying. For example, the recent research performed by Ward et al. Concluded that even the close location of a smartphone near the user, for instance, on the desk, can worsen cognitive capacity and fluid intelligence. Moreover, cognitive damage is directly proportional to the dependence from a smartphone. The research indicates that the presence of students' mobile devices in educational environments may undermine both learning and test performance. It should be mentioned that the study consisted of two experiments that involved 520 and 275 smartphone users, respectively. The third argument is connected with cheating since many students tend to use smartphones while taking a test or even an exam. For example, according to a Pew Research Center study, 35% of pupils use their phones to complete tests or assignments, and 65% of teens reported that they see how smartphones were used by others. Overall, in the educational environment, not only does cheating make it impossible to evaluate students correctly and rightly but also allows them not to prepare for exams appropriately. This has adverse consequences for their performance and the ability to master the necessary knowledge. Another issue that gains the increasing alert among pedagogues and parents is that cell phones can promote cyberbullying that implies threats, harassments, humiliation, or torments by means of technology. Cyberbullying can be executed through social media sites or other websites and text messages or emails. Besides, this phenomenon has various forms, including impersonation, that is, fake accounts, trolling, flaming, namely, posting derogatory comments, cyberstalking, trickery, and denigration, that is, posting gossip and rumors about someone. According to the survey conducted by the Cyberbullying Research Center in 2016, around 34% of middle and high school students have experienced cyberbullying, some of them cyberbullied several times. It should be specified that cyberbullying leads to significant negative outcomes and can cause depression, anxiety, feelings of isolation, low self-esteem, loss of interest in studies, and even using alcohol and drugs. Moreover, this type of bullying is difficult for teachers to track and stop. The last argument is correlated with disconnection from face-to-face communication and a decrease in the students' participation in outside and social activities. Working together and leading in-person discussions about a particular topic is an indispensable part of education. Moreover, involvement in sports and social activities play an essential role in the psychological and physical development of children and adolescents. With the excessive use of gadgets, many teens tend to avoid traditional, alive conversations and outside games and prefer to communicate using smartphones, play digital games, and hang on the internet. In this regard, secondary schools in the UK began establishing stricter rules regarding cell phones, prohibiting using them in school premises individuals under 16 years of age. This measure has resulted in the fact that students become more active, alert, and sociable in the school setting. To summarize, in this essay, I have advanced valid and persuasive arguments against the use of mobile phones in schools, maintained by statistics, credible opinions, and facts. These arguments include the disruption of the learning process, the adverse effect on the individual's cognitive capabilities, cheating, cyberbullying, and disconnection from face-to-face communication. For example, the disruption of the learning process caused by possible distractions related to phone calls or communication in social networks, while cyberbullying is accompanied by threats, harassments, humiliation, or torments using technology. In conclusion, as Nick Gibb, a British politician, said, every hour spent online and on a smartphone is an hour less talking to family, and it's an hour less exercise, and it's an hour less sleep. Thus, people, especially teachers, students, and parents, should be aware of the harm of using mobile phones in schools to prevent unfortunate consequences concerning students' performance, education, their mental health, overall. This and many other essays are available at studycorgi.com.